Hello and welcome to Who Wore It Better, where we review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. You know, during my Money in the Bank review, I asked myself, where does Big Cass go from here after his second straight loss to Daniel Bryan? Turns out, Impact, probably in about 90 days.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Big Cass is released. WWE said it. Must be true. What the hell?
The big story that broke on Tuesday afternoon was that Big Cass was released from his contract, which I think surprised just about everybody, considering his place on the card and his feud with Daniel Bryan. The fact he had arguably his best singles match to date with Daniel Bryan at Money in the Bank. So there's a big shock. Someone with a lot of upside and who they seemed to be in line for a big push after his ACL injury and his recovery from that, to be gone like this was really surprising. Kind of reminded me of what happened when Emma was released right after having two very competitive matches with Asuka, and then she was just gone. The official release from WWE was just a single sentence, you know, William Morrissey is gone from WWE, bye. They don't even wish him well in his future endeavors, so which is very telling. The story right now online is that apparently it's a combination of a bad attitude and issues with public intoxication that led to his release. Now everyone knows that unless you're Shawn Michaels in the late 90s, that kind of conduct is frowned upon at the company, so that's a big no-no for Cass. It sucks that he's gone, but there's so many jokes you can make about this at the same time. Like, there's only one word to describe him, and I'm gonna spell it out for you. F-I-R-E-D. Fired. Also, what a real one and big one doing in the Impact Zone. And one more thing before I move on with the official review. I mentioned it in my Money in the Bank review near the end as well. Friends of the show, world famous Flea Market, their channel was taken down by YouTube for, frankly, stupid reasons a couple weeks ago. They're rebuilding their channel video by video, re-uploading a lot of stuff. So why don't you do these guys a solid and check out this link in the upper right hand corner of your screen and give them a subscribe, why don't you? Raw begins with Kurt Angle presenting the Women's Championship to the new champ, Alexa Bliss. Yeah, I'm willing to walk back my rant a bit on Alexa Bliss and how she performed on Sunday. I still think she might be a little too dominant for my tastes, but ultimately, she is a much better foil for Ronda Rousey than Nia Jax was. No matter how much work they do with Nia in the weeks to come leading up to, Extreme Rules and SummerSlam, I just don't think Alexa Bliss is a ready-made, built-in uber heel for Ronda Rousey to go against, and I'll get to how that will probably go in about a minute. I do love when Alexa comes out and Kurt kind of gives Alexa sass for like wanting the celebration. Just goes, here you go, here's a title. I kind of laughed at that. Alexa does another one of her swerve promos where she starts out humble and sincere, like, I'm just kidding, y'all suck. Like, when you do that as often as she does, I feel that kind of swerve loses its magic after a while. Ronda Rousey interrupts and charges down in the ring, and Kurt's trying to stay in between them. Alexa talks some more trash, and Ronda just snaps. She goes ballistic. She beats up Alexa with the briefcase. She beats up Kurt Angle with the briefcase. She beats up the referees. She goes ham on just about everybody. She power bombs an unconscious Alexa Bliss through the table. It was probably one of the most startling, vicious beatdowns I've seen between men or women in a long time, and the fans ate it up. It was very like, I hate to use the metaphor of Stone Cold Steve Austin or the simile of Stone Cold Steve Austin, but that's what kind of reminded me of it a little bit. It's certainly, I've never seen a female segment like this before. This felt very fresh and new to me in that respect. After this, Kurt Angle suspended Ronda for 30 days, just in time for a return for a build for SummerSlam. How convenient for that. Corey on commentary was great, I think, for this whole segment of the whole night talking about how he wouldn't be against her being fired or at least suspended for more than 30 days. I think he did a very good job in this role, but this opening segment was very strong. It really just really encased in iron the roles of Ronda Rousey and Alexa Bliss, and how just evil and snarky and bitchy Alexa is, and how Ronda just doesn't take any shit and just wants to tear through everybody, doesn't care who she has to go through in order to get what she wants. Seth Rollins comes out and issues an open challenge for the Intercontinental Championship, and out comes Dolph Ziggler to answer the call. They have a great match, and Dolph friggin' wins the Intercontinental Championship more or less clean. There's a bit of like a minor distraction with Drew McIntyre, but I think you could argue that this was a clean pinfall victory for Dolph Ziggler here. I think it's the first time the IC title has changed hands on television since Raw 25 in January when The Miz beat Roman Reigns. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the last time it's changed hands on TV. Either way, a really cool surprise surprised. It's so rare to see title changes on television anymore. It's rare to see title changes, period, it feels like. So when it happens, especially on TV and not a pay-per-view, it's very refreshing. The two of them beat up Seth after the match, and it's going to lead to a rematch next week. Seth has invoked his rematch clause already, so that's to look forward to. And I think it makes sense because Ziggler has that kind of stigma of being a jobber, but I think he has been on a roll lately since WrestleMania when he teamed up with Drew McIntyre. These two have been on a tear and have been winning constantly. So will we see them win the tag belts on top of this, kind of make like a uber awesome tag team where they just win a bunch of gold? Will Drew be the Diesel to Dolph's HBK, or will Dolph just relinquish the Intercontinental title next week like he did the US title the day or two after he won it last year? Who really knows at this point? We have Bobby Roode versus Kurt Hawkins, who's rocking the Bret Hart style tights on this night. It's a squiggity squash match. It ends very quickly. I'm glad we got to see that. That was worth it. Braun Strowman comes out to celebrate his Money in the Bank victory. Kevin Owens comes out, who is limping his way to the ring, selling the injuries from the big table bump on Sunday. He congratulates Braun and tries to forge an alliance, basically where he says, I'll help you win the championship and you give me something back, give me a title shot or whatever. Braun gives him a hard no, and that's not the last time we'll see these two in action by the end of the night. In my Money in the Bank predictions video, I quite erroneously said that the Raw tag titles would be defended between the Deleters of World and the B team. I regret the error tremendously. Obviously did not happen on Sunday. Anyway, before the Deleters fight Rhino and Heath Slater, we get this promo on the Tron with the B team dressed up as Matt and Bray. And of course, Bo Dallas is Bray Wyatt and is a great impression of him. What a shock. But they were just hilarious in this role. Really funny promo. They close up the lantern, they stay there for a while, and they slowly just like duck down out of the shot, which I thought was just a great little touch. So very funny stuff by the B team here. We got a nice competitive match between Matt and Bray and Heath and Rhino. Matt and Bray ultimately win with their terrible tag team finisher, the Kiss of Deletion. And so, yeah, obviously the build is still happening. The tag title match has not happened yet. Probably at this point, I would imagine they're going to wait till Extreme Rules for this. But yeah, I want to see more funny stuff from the B team as this build goes on. I love that promo. Jinder Mahal is wearing scarves now. He says he's won the battle of self-improvement. He's basically doing the same pacifist gimmick that he did when he first came back to the company a couple of years ago. He wrestles Chad Gable here on this night. Been a while since seen these two wrestle each other. Jinder beats down on Chad as soon as the bell rings. He's very vicious, quite the opposite of what he was preaching about, being a peaceful man before the match started. Chad gets a little fire, but Jinder ultimately wins the Colossus. So I'm wondering if Jinder reverting back to this pacifist thing is his new track for the time being, or if it's a one-time deal. Time will tell, but I didn't care for it the first time, so I wonder what they could possibly do to improve on it in 2.0. Bayley and Sasha Banks appear to have reconciled once again and are now teaming up against the Riot Squad of Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan. It's a decent match. Morgan pins Sasha with a handful of tights to win, and Sasha is very upset at Bayley. Backstage, the two have a scuffle, and then later Sasha leaves the arena in her gear for some reason. She's wearing a jacket over her ring attire, and she's getting into her car, and she tells Bayley she's done being her friend, and she drives off, and Bayley's all pouty and mad about it. So now it's finally happened. This breakup seems to finally now have happened, although I think it's too little too late. This is something that literally we've been waiting for over a year for. I feel like we were kind of predicting this would happen back at WrestleMania 33, and now it's finally happening. And I'm not saying it should have happened back then, but somewhere between then and now would have been a better time than now. I feel it's too little too late. In this particular night, Sasha came off as kind of moody, and I feel Bayley came off as like desperate, like trying to still be friends, and still it just breaks off. I hope it turns into something worthwhile, but I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I'm still kind of like, we will see where this goes. Kurt Angle's back out in the ring with some big news as it pertains to where and when Brock Lesnar will defend the Universal title next. Roman Reigns comes out and says he deserves a shot, as he's been doing for several weeks. Then out comes Bobby Lashley to remind us why he shouldn't be on the microphone all that often. Kurt says there will be a multi-man match at Extreme Rules to determine the #1 contender for the Universal Championship, the exact same main event of last year's Extreme Rules, now that I think about it. The Revival interrupts. After Kurt says that Roman and Bobby will be in that match, the Revival come out and they challenge the two to a tag team match on the spot. They accept. This kind of surprised me. I never would have expected this match happening ever. This is so weird because you rarely see tag teams mingling with like singles guys in a feud. It seems it's pretty rare in this day and age. We haven't seen these guys in a little bit, the Revival, so for them to suddenly be fodder for these two was kind of out of left field to me. It was a surprisingly competitive matchup. The Revival do look good against both these guys, but they ultimately do the job, of course. Lashley tags himself in, hits the spear onto Wilder to win, and the announcers are making a big deal of it. That's Roman Reigns' move. It is also Bobby Lashley's move, let's be honest here. But yeah, the guys are taking turns getting in each other's head, it seems. That's going to be like what we're going to see leading up to their inevitable confrontation. The Revival did look good here, I will say. They look good in defeat. Hopefully they can build upon this moment and do some stuff with the Revival instead of just forgetting about it next week. We get No Way Jose versus Mojo Rawley. Where's he been since his match with Seth Rollins for the IC title last month? I guess he's been on main event this whole time. Mojo wins with a flapjack maneuver. Afterward, he's interviewed in the ring and he says he's no longer hyped, he's focused. And then on commentary, Coach says something like, well, we'll see if he can keep it going week to week. It's one thing to say that, but it's another thing to see if we actually see him week to week. We get Elias with his hair down in the ring. He counts like Eddie Vedder with the hair down. He sings a song about what would Elias do, and that's pretty much the whole segment. So I guess Elias is just to remind us that he's there, and we'll see where we go from there. The main event is Braun Strowman and Finn Balor taking on Constable Corbin and Kevin Owens. This match was set up earlier in the night during a backstage confrontation between the four guys. Corbin is wrestling in his civvies in this evening, and actually he can pull it off pretty well. Good job of selling by Owens. He's clearly still like feeling the effects. Everything hurts no matter what he does. If he's giving a move or taking a move, everything hurts after the table bump, and as it should, because I feel like one of my biggest pet peeves the last couple of years is like how wrestlers sell things after big matches, like Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell, TLC, whatever. They come walking out like nothing happened the previous night. This is the first time I can recall in a while it feels that somebody is at least selling the devastating effects of a move like that. It's a pretty entertaining match. Strowman uses his OMG moment to spear Kevin Owens through the barricade in the timekeeper's area. Corbin hits the end of days on Finn to win the match, which actually surprised me. I figured it was going to be one of those shows where fans go home happy and the baby faces win, but Corbin ends up spoiling everyone's fun, which is his gimmick after all. And so he wins the day for the heels. And so this tag team match, as far as a storyline progression, I'm not sure who it's going to benefit more. Probably Corbin more than anyone, but I think it was definitely, it was not the most impactful main event in the world, but I think it got a good story across. Before I move on to SmackDown, this week's edition of Who Wore It Better is sponsored by SeatGeek. It's an app you can download on your iOS or Android device that gives you tons of ticket deals for concerts, sporting events, WWE, you name it. You can find the tickets you're looking for at the price you're looking for thanks to SeatGeek. Go download the app using the link at the top of this description. Use the promo code REGRET in the accounts tab and get $20 back on your first ticket purchase. Well, if you want a rundown of what happened in the opening segment of SmackDown, just go back to what I said about the opening segment of Raw, but get rid of the whole badass part with Ronda Rousey coming in and wrecking shit. You pretty much had this one. It's another promo that starts out humble and sincere by Carmella, and she turns it around and she's actually mean. Like, wow, how criminally lazy is that? When you've got all these different ways you can establish a heel character for your female heel champion, and you just do the exact same thing that Alexa Bliss did the previous night, and it's something that she is known for doing on a regular basis. It's bad enough when Alexa does it frequently, but let's just keep it to her and just not have Carmella do it as well. Asuka interrupts, or does she? It turns out it's James Ellsworth dressed as Asuka again. Good to see him back. He cuts a little promo saying he's back. He praises Carmella until the real Asuka interrupts. She and Ellsworth have a confrontation, and she quickly knocks him down with a kick. Carmella takes her out with a head kick, and the heels walk away triumphant. Asuka, again, looks kind of dumb. Like, they pretty much took the whole opening segment of Raw and somehow made it worse and made the babyface look worse than they did on Sunday. I don't know how you could possibly do that. That was my take on it. It was too similar. It was like that really left a bad taste in my mouth. The Iconics mock Toledo, Ohio, and Becky Lynch. Billie Kay taps out to disarm her, but who cares because Sanity's finally debuted. Boy, those promos after WrestleMania felt like a dream, didn't they? But they're finally here. They're finally here in the flesh, debuting on SmackDown against the Usos. Still no Nikki Cross, which I'm sure disappoints a lot of fans, but I'm sure eventually they will find a way to have her move up and align herself with the rest of Sanity. Not much of a match here, just more of a big beatdown to establish dominance. This will likely lead to a proper match between the two of them, probably as early as next week. But we finally get the debut of Sanity after a very long, it felt like a very long wait, and it's a very impactful debut. We get some dueling promos between Jeff Hardy and Shinsuke Nakamura after their encounter last week in their match there. Jeff with a full-on face paint, including over the eyelids. Looks like we have ourselves a U.S. title feud. In a rematch from the pre-show at Money in the Bank on Sunday, the Bludgeon Brothers defend the SmackDown tag titles yet again against Anderson and Gallows, and this match was far more entertaining than the one on Sunday. They were given far more time to work with each other, and it showed. It was a very competitive matchup. In the end, there's a blind tag. The Bludgeons give a double powerbomb to Anderson to win and retain. After their match, as they're making their way up the ramp, Daniel Bryan comes out because he's getting ready for his gauntlet match in the next match. But I do find it weird because he stops and they're crossing paths, they have a stare down, and Daniel keeps going. You know, just from a production standpoint, why would they cue Daniel's music? Why would they rush the next match before the Bludgeon Brothers even make their way back up? I guess you could say, oh, we're so strapped for time, we kind of push up, but that whole idea of like time limits, TV time limits, never applies in WWE anymore. So I thought it was kind of contrived, but we'll see where this goes later on. So yes, main event time. It was announced at the start of the show that it would be a 5-man gauntlet match to determine who will be the new #1 contender for the WWE Championship. A far better match concept than a fatal 5-way. Number 1, of course, Daniel Bryan. Number 2, Big E of the New Day. A very competitive matchup between these two, and there's still more guys to come. In the end, Daniel Bryan eliminates Big E with the knee plus. Out comes Samoa Joe, and they have a very competitive matchup as well. Ultimately, they're fighting on the outside. Joe puts the coquina clutch on Daniel. He gets too into it, though. Joe ends up getting himself counted out, so that's the end of Joe's time for a bit. Then out come the Bludgeon Brothers, who we saw earlier, and they double powerbomb Daniel Bryan. Yeah, that'll show you for walking past us, you bleh. Number 4 is The Miz, who just runs in, picks the bones of Daniel Bryan, and eliminates him with a skull-crushing finale. Ooh, that's a good build. Ooh, that's a nice low simmer there. Number 5, the final man, is Rusev, and these two have a nice little outing here between the two of them. Rusev hits Miz with the Mashka kick and the Accolade. Miz taps out, and Rusev is going to get his first WWE Championship opportunity against AJ Styles. Rusev Day is alive and well here, apparently. His push is not dead. Styles comes out. He and Rusev have a handshake. Then Aiden fabes AJ Styles, and he gets hit in the face for his troubles, and that's where the show ends. Very exciting end here. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. This to me was a bit of a toughie, and I'll tell you why in a second, but I am going to give the win to Raw once again this week. I almost gave it to SmackDown simply because Raw's third hour I felt was very flat, but they had too much good stuff going on for me to really ignore them this week. I mean, the thing with Ronda Rousey going crazy and beating up Alexa Bliss and Kurt Angle was a fun opening segment. Rollins and Ziggler was a great match with a surprising title change. That was awesome. The B Team, I've been on the B Team bandwagon since the beginning, and I love the stuff they did where they're mocking Matt and Bray. That was just great stuff. And Roman and Lashley versus the Revival was a kind of it was a hidden gem. You know, it was just refreshing to see this kind of match happening in the first place. I think the Revival got a good rub, did a good job to establish, you know, the beef between Roman and Lashley now. Yeah, and again, I think the third hour is kind of flat. The Sasha and Bayley breakup, just a little too late as far as I'm concerned. With SmackDown, I think they had a pretty strong show as well. Sanity debuting was fun. The Bludgeons versus the Good Brothers was better than at Money in the Bank, and the Gauntlet match was fantastic as well. But man, that opening segment was so lazy. I could not believe how much they just plucked that exact same thing from Monday and somehow stripped down all the cool stuff about it and made it worse. The fact that they had the exact same promo from Alexa and Carmella of like, oh, I'm humble and sincere, haha, gotcha, I'm still a bitch. Like that just pissed me off so much that they did that. That really irked me. Let me know what you guys thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret for exclusive perks and bonus content. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.